Hello, I'm Alexis, and welcome to another round of Battle of the Books April edition. If you're new here, this is just how I do my monthly wrap-up. I think it's a little more fun than talking your ear off about books that I have already probably vlogged about, made a TBR about, talked about in other videos. This month, I read so many books, 18 to be exact, that we're not making this an hour-long video. So I have actually written very poorly and very run-on a one-sentence review of every book. And we're gonna try to keep it short and sweet and a little unhinged, and yeah. Another staple of my channel is constantly fighting the glare in my glasses, but I need these to see today. So we are leaving them on, and don't worry, I will be a teeny tiny ant in the corner of the screen in just a few minutes, so you won't have to deal with it too long. Let me move over here and we can pop up my stats for the month. I read a total of 18 books. The physical books that I read equaled to 2,345 pages. The audiobooks I read totaled 119 hours and 56 minutes. And my breakdown was 9 physical books, 8 audiobooks, and 1 ebook. We have my genres. My most read was horror, coming in at 33%, and then a tie for second place was fantasy and romance at 22%. Did not do great on my authors diversity this month. I read 78% white authors and 22% BIPOC authors. Moving on to my star ratings, I had 6 4 stars, 4 5 stars, 3 3.5 stars, and we don't care about the others. So a pretty good reading month. Not a bunch of favorites, but 4 stars are good. How I acquired the books that I was reading. The majority of books I read this month are ones that I bought in 2024. So I read 5 books that I bought since the beginning of the year. I read 4 books that I owned prior to the start of 2024. I got 4 books from the library, 4 books from other. I listened to a lot on Spotify and Audible this month. I try not to use those services. I am definitely a library girl primarily, but Audible had a classic available for free. Spotify had a few books that weren't available right away from my library, so every once in a while I will deviate from the library, but overall that is where I get the majority of my books. Okay, I think that is everything. So with that, let's shrink me down and let's start with our bracket battle. As always, I use the website Bracket Fights. I just upload my book covers that I want to use. It makes the bracket for you. It figures out by weeks. It figures out how to pit everything against each other. Great website, not sponsored, but sponsor me if you want. So first up, we have 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. This is a Crowns of Nyaxia novella. I did read it in between the first one, Serpent and the Wings of Night, and the second one, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Did I say my one-word review of 6 Scorched Roses is Carissa Broadbent's kink is banging while on the brink of death. Much like the other Crowns of Nyaxia books, yeah, the characters just love getting it on when the page before they were almost dead from a battle. Versus Bride by Ali Hazelwood. My one-sentence review for that one is, ew, Vampire Girl Forever, werewolves are not for me. If you know, you know. I guess I should give you my ratings too. 6 Scorched Roses got 4 stars and Bride got 2 stars. So I think we already have a clear winner. I just really am loving Carissa Broadbent's writing. I love me some vampires. Oh, I didn't even realize these are vampires versus werewolf books. So yes, Vampire Girl Forever. Since my Twilight days, I'm just not a fan of werewolves. I wasn't a fan of Ali Hazelwood's spicy scenes in this. I wasn't a fan of the romance. It didn't even feel like there was a romance in Bride. So yeah, 6 Scorched Roses is winning round number 1. Next up, we have The Pisces. And I wrote, surprisingly, the half-fish, half-human sex scene wasn't the worst part of this book. And I gave this a 2.5 star. I just did not like the ending of this one. It felt so out of nowhere, so unnecessary, and like completely against the character's development for the rest of the book. So I enjoyed the writing a lot. I thought it was really, really beautifully written. There was definitely a lot of great lines about mental health, and I'm definitely interested to read more Melissa Broder in the future, but this one, not a favorite. Versus Pack Up the Moon by Kristan Higgins. And my review for this one is Kristan Higgins owes me financial compensation for the emotional pain this book put me through and will be receiving a bill from my therapist. If you watched my most recent vlog where I read this one, you know I sobbed harder at this book than I have in my entire life at anything else. The Pisces, I said, got a 2.5 for me. Pack Up the Moon got 4 stars from me. It was great. It just wasn't a favorite of all time. The writing of this one wasn't my favorite, but I love the characters, so of course have to go with Pack Up the Moon. We have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, to which I wrote, as mad as the ending made me, I can't deny the chokehold Jax has me in. 5 stars. I cannot believe me, who never has liked fantasy romance, who put off reading this series for so long, is so obsessed with this fictional character. But I am. And this goes up against PTSD Radio 1, which I wrote, great images, truly haunting, and this one also got a 5-star from me. I love the PTSD Radio series. It is definitely one of my favorite horror manga of all time. I will endlessly recommend it because seriously, it is one of the creepiest things I've ever read. Like, the images in that are burned into my brain. I still see them sometimes or imagine them in dark hallways or when I'm alone at night. So yes, I will forever recommend this one, but I just have to go with my man Jax and The Ballad of Never After. Next up, we have another PTSD Radio, this time volume 3, to which I wrote, if this entity was haunting me in real life, I would simply end it all. And this volume actually does go into the real life author and how he believes that something has followed him outside of this book. It is just so interesting. And besides that, it is the scariest of the series, in my opinion. Like, the entities described in this volume, I would not want to mess with them. They're so realistic and so sinister. They really do get under your skin and you just can't forget about them. This one was 5 stars. Versus The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, of course, by Carissa Broadbent. This is the finale to the Crowns of Nyaxia duology. And my review for this one was, the first one was better, and if I have to hear the name Princess one more time, I was going to throw my Kindle. This one I ended up rating 3 stars. I really do. I think the first one was a lot better. The plot was just more fleshed out. This one felt both rushed and like way too slow at the same time. It was very info dumpy. It was very unbelievable, the progression that some of these characters had. And yeah, just overall, still love her writing, still love the characters and the world she creates, and I will definitely be reading more by Carissa Broadbent, but the winner of this round is going to be PTSD Radio Volume 3. Okay, another PTSD Radio, arguably the ugliest cover I have ever seen in my entire life. And my review for this one is, this is the worst of the series and still a 5-star. So that really sums it up for you. Same things that I said for the other two. They all sort of have the same plot of this haunting entity, but to me, this one was my least favorite, and like, it's still a great rating. It's still a 5-star. Just the images in the first and third one definitely stuck with me more. Versus Blackouts by Justin Torres, to which I wrote, this book made me feel both dumb and smart at the same time, and I gave this one 4 stars. I don't even know how to describe this book to you. It is one of the most unique things I have ever read. So we have the main plot of this young man and this older man, and they are old friends, and they're both queer. And the older man is sick and coming to the end of his life, and they are just both kind of recounting their life stories and experiences being queer men. Well, also there is this book inside of a book that they are reading about queer identity and how it has changed over the years. How it used to be categorized as a mental disorder, how queer people were studied, thought to have something wrong with them. And this is a real book that they talk about. There are pictures throughout. The two men write their life stories in sort of movie scripts throughout. It's just really, really unique. And I thought it was a great story. It just wasn't a favorite. It wasn't a 5-star feeling to me, but I still liked it a lot. I know I rated it lower than PTSD Radio, but just in the sense that Blackouts is truly a book that will stick with me for a very long time. I'm just not going to forget just some of the beautiful writing in there and really the content matter. I'm going to pick Blackouts for this matchup. Okay. And then, as always, we do the left side in totality before moving on to the right side. So we have Six Scorched Roses versus Pack Up the Moon. This is hard. I think I rated these about the same. Yeah, both 4 stars. Enjoyment-wise, I know Pack Up the Moon made me very, very emotional, and usually a book that would make me sob that hard would be the winner. But the writing in Six Scorched Roses just felt better to me. I definitely, given the choice to read more about the characters in Six Scorched Roses versus Pack Up the Moon, I would pick the vampires to continue with their story. So for this matchup, I am going to be picking Six Scorched Roses. This one is hard, but I think there's a clear winner. You know I am a simp for Jack, so Ballad of Never After. And then normally this would be really tough because you know how I love my vampires, but again, Jacks, just give me more Jacks. Oh, and then clear winner, it's Ballad of Never After again. Okay, so we have our first contender for the top spot, Ballad of Never After, and now we move on to the right side of the books. So for Night Watching by Tracy Sierra, this was a thriller that I read for the Literally Dead Book Club, and my review of it says, Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girl Boss. I'll probably forget about this one in a month. And this is going up against, and I gave Night Watching 3.5 stars, and this one is going up against Anne of Green Gables, and my review is simply, I would die for Anne. This one, 5 stars. If you watched my vlog, again, you know how obsessed I am with this book. It is a new favorite classic of all time. I cried at the end. Just truly, I love Anne so much, and I've just got to get around to watching all of the adaptations that have come out because I just know I'm going to love them so much. As for Night Watching, like I said, don't really remember too much. I remember getting surprised at the twist at the ending, and I did like the ending, but the beginning and middle were so slow and annoying, no thanks. I'm good with that one. We can leave it, and I'll never think about it again. So Anne of Green Gables wins this round. All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and C.L. Herman. This is the sequel to All of Us Villains that I read a few years ago. Just a nice little YA fantasy series I wanted to finish. And my review for this one is angsty, horny teens fighting to the death. Truly, this was one of the angstiest books I've ever read. Maybe it's just me not really reading a lot of YA fantasy again, but yeah, truly, truly dramatic. And I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars versus Garden of Earthly Bodies by Sally Oliver. My review for this one is, I love a weird book with an open ending, but I needed a tiny bit more explanation on this one, and I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. Okay, so we have a very even competition here. Like I said, Garden of Earthly Bodies was definitely a weird one. It is about a girl who goes to a sort of a spa rehab retreat because she's dealing with some trauma and mental health issues, and it just got weird. It was very nature horror. I really did love everything about Garden of Earthly Bodies until the ending. The ending just wrapped up way too fast, no explanation. I tried to look online to see what really happened, and I'm still confused. So if you've read this one and want to talk to me about the ending, let me know, because still wondering what happened there. But yeah, I think just enjoyment-wise, I'm gonna go with Garden of Earthly Bodies. All of Our Demise was fine. I don't think I'm the target audience. I think I'm a little too old to enjoy that kind of book. All right, moving on to Below by Laurel Hightower. My review was... Okay, yeah, my review for this one is, to quote one of my favorite podcasts, My Favorite Murder, fuck politeness. Yeah, the main character in this one just goes a little too above and beyond to rescue a stranger she just met. If it was me, I would definitely be feeling bad and saying sucks to be you, but I'm gonna get myself to safety and then maybe call for help once I am out of immediate danger. But no, our girl just dives headfirst right in. She's a hero, and the cryptid horror in this one was great. This one is about Mothman, if you couldn't tell by the cover. Short little horror novella that I liked a lot. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Versus Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This one, I think my review really says it all. Somehow a book about magical creatures was the most boring thing I read in April, and I honestly forgot all about it, and I gave it 2 stars. I really feel like this is a very polarizing book. Either you love it or you hate it, and I was unfortunately in the hate it category. I really don't go into books wanting to dislike them. I fully wanted to love this one, and I did try, but at the end of the day, it's just not for me, and we're gonna go with Below for this. All right, next up we have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. For this one, my review is another romance ruined by my most hated trope, and I gave this one 4 stars, versus Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus, to which I wrote, you can judge this book by its cover, and I gave this one 3 stars. This one's tough because Yours Truly, I'm still so angry at the ending. Like, again, I keep repeating myself, but I will link the vlog where I talked about this one because I truly just ranted about this ending. The 80% mark of this book, like up to that point, 5 stars. Then we got to this trope and 1 star, garbage, hated it, hated the ending. I want to cut my book in half and just pretend it didn't exist. And then versus Whale Fall, that it was just a book. It was not very memorable. It was a fun time while I was reading it, but definitely not one that I'm going to think about or recommend. And yeah, it's about a guy that gets swallowed by a whale. It's kind of a silly, goofy time. It did make me feel very claustrophobic though, so I will say the horror elements in this did its job, but the pacing was just off. I think I'd be interested to read more from this author. Even though I'm still mad at it, I think I am gonna pick Yours Truly because it is one of my favorite relationships that I have ever read. I love this couple so much. I just wish that Abby Jimenez hadn't done what she did. Sorry to be vague, but it's a pretty big spoiler. Okay, so this one, gotta go with my girl Anne. I am just truly so in love with her, and 5-star book. This one's hard because I did enjoy both of them, but gotta go with my favorite couple, Yours Truly. And then we've got Anne of Green Gables versus Yours Truly. Just because Anne didn't have my least favorite trope, gonna go with Anne. Which brings us to our top 2 books of April. We have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber and Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. Ooh, this one is really difficult. So The Ballad of Never After, although it is a 5-star, I was so mad at the ending, and if it wasn't for my obsession with Jax, I might have rated it lower, whereas Anne of Green Gables, no critiques, no comments, like absolute perfect book. One of the most perfect books ever written. So I think we're gonna go with Anne as my top book of April. I am so happy that I picked this one as my classic for April. You guys know I'm trying to read a classic every single month, and so far they haven't been great choices. They've all been in the 2-star range, and this is my first 5-star classic of the year. And it's really just sparked a love I didn't know I had of this classic fictional character. It's always fun when a classic ends up being 5 stars or my favorite of the month. Like, it just really shows that they do stand the test of time. They are classics for a reason, and it's just so incredible. People are still reading them so many years later. And that's really why I try to read a classic every single month. Sometimes they don't hit and I don't end up enjoying them, but sometimes I find new favorites and I finally get what other people are talking about when they praise this book for being so timeless. So if you've made it this far, first of all, thank you so much for watching. I know I definitely rambled more than I wanted to. I gave you a little bit more than a one-sentence review, but I can't help it. I can't stop when I start talking about books. If you've made it this far, our emoji of the video is going to be anything nature themed in honor of Anne and springtime and her love of nature. If you like this one, please give me a thumbs up so I know to keep doing my wrap-ups this way. I think it's a fun little game we get to play every month. I hope you read a good book today, and I will see you soon in my next one. Bye!